The road to the 2024-25 season has officially started, so today let's talk about the 5 teams that are going to look incredibly different from this point next year. And we will begin with the Chicago Bears. Anytime you have the number 1 overall pick and have a quarterback like Justin Fields, there's going to be a ton of questions to ask. And at this point next year, who knows if Justin Fields will be on the Chicago Bears or if somebody like Drake May or Caleb Williams will be the future quarterback. And regardless of what they do at the quarterback position, whether they decide to keep Justin Fields or move on from him, I think this team is going to look radically different just due to the fact that they have so much different options to choose from this offseason, whether it's being aggressive in free agency and making some big time trades to contend for a playoff spot, or to continue to build through the draft with their 2 first-round picks. Regardless of what this team decides to do, I do think this team is heading down the right direction, and I think this time next year, there's going to be some significant strides done with this team. There's also always a chance of a new head coach coming in, with Matt Eberflus being a little bit on the hot seat coming into next season. I don't think he's going to get fired mid-season because the Chicago Bears typically don't roll like that, but if Eberflus doesn't perform, I think that there could be a new head coach in this building coming into this point next year. Now, with that all being said, I do think this team is going to take Caleb Williams with their first overall pick. And if that is the case, the offense is going to look 10 times different than what it is right now. As we all know, Justin Fields has turned into more of that Lamar Jackson-like quarterback, whereas Caleb Williams is nothing like that. Sure, Caleb can use his legs and has some really good abilities with his athleticism, but he's nowhere near the athlete of Justin Fields. So if you're looking for a team that's going to look completely different just schematically wise, the Chicago Bears are your team. And with this team having $46 million in cap space, they're going to be able to make a ton of personnel changes on this roster. I fully expect them to be very aggressive this offseason to address the receiving room, the offensive line, and certain positions on the defense. I think best case scenario, this team could go out there this offseason and address their offensive line needs, go out there and trade Justin Fields for a first or second round pick depending on what they can get for him, drafting Caleb Williams and drafting Rome Odunze, and then ultimately fixing your problems through free agency. Again, that's just a theoretical offseason for them, but if that's the case, it's going to be a radically different team next year. But now let's move on to a different team down in the South, the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the Arizona Cardinals might be a team that is a little bit of a stretch when it comes to how different they'll look, but with multiple first and third round picks, this team is going to have many rookies coming in to fill in many different spots. Not to mention, they currently have $42 million in cap space to be pretty aggressive this offseason to address certain positions of need. As it sits right now, many people are projecting this team to either take Malik Neighbors or Marvin Harrison Jr., and if that is ultimately the case, those guys are going to completely open up this offense. As it sits right now, Marquise Brown is technically the receiver 1, but they also have guys like Rondale Moore, Greg Dortch, and Michael Wilson. And if you're going to add in a true alpha number 1 receiver, this receiving room is actually going to be pretty damn good. Not to mention some improvements along the offensive line and Trey McBride improving in his second year as tight end, it's going to be a very fun offense to watch next year. And with the rest of their draft picks and a lot of their cap space, they can fix a lot of the talent problems they have on this defense. At the end of the day, this is a defense that lacks a lot of talent, but going into next year with a lot of money and a lot of possibilities, there's going to be a lot of new players coming in. This is the perfect time to overhaul a lot of different positions on your team. And this team is about to get a lot of different ammunition to fix a lot of their spots. You look at the left side of the offensive line, the secondary, and even the defensive line, those are all positions of need, and I guarantee you they're going to look to address that this offseason. So the sorry-ass Arizona Cardinals you're used to are not going to be so sorry in a couple years. Now, don't get it twisted. This team might not make the playoffs next year, but I guarantee you they're going to be more than a 4-win team next year. And I think if they make the right picks in the draft and make the right moves this offseason, they're going to be setting up damn nicely to be a damn good team moving forward. If you want to talk about a team that has a bright future, I think you have to talk about the Arizona Cardinals. Let's go ahead and move on to another team that is also from the South, the Atlanta Falcons. To say the Arthur Smith era was a bit of a disappointment is a little bit of an understatement. After another 7-10 season this year, they decided to move on from him and are looking to currently hire a bunch of different head coaches. They've interviewed guys like Mike Vrabel, Ejiro Evero, and most popularly, Bill Belichick. And in my opinion, there's a lot of different directions this team can go down at the head coaching position. If they want a defensive-minded guy, then I think Mike Vrabel, Evero, and Bill Belichick are all really good candidates. But I also think there's some many good offensive minds who can come in here and really spark up this offense. I look at a guy like Ben Johnson who can get Bijan Robinson the ball 20 plus times a game and can really make him the dynamic running back he should be. I also look at a guy like Bobby Slowick who has taken advantage of multiple decent receivers and have made them really damn good. Look at what he was able to do this year with Nico Collins. Imagine what he can do with a guy like Kyle Pitts or Drake London. And for any offensive-minded head coach, there's so much talent on this offense that I guarantee you it is a very tempting job to have. Not to mention, this team has their first round pick and over $20 million in cap space to work with. So they have a ton of options with what they can do at the quarterback position. They can go out there and get a Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins or Kenny Pickett, or they could even go out there and try to get a quarterback in this year's draft. I think Jaden Daniels would be an amazing fit with the Atlanta Falcons. And another possibility is, of course, trading for Justin Fields. And let's just be completely honest, no matter who they get at quarterback, it's going to be a significant upgrade over Taylor Heineke and Desmond Ridder. So just going out there and getting a new head coach and getting a new quarterback is going to dramatically change the outlook of this Atlanta Falcons franchise. This is the same Falcons franchise that has been searching for a quarterback ever since Matt Ryan, and they've also been looking for answers at the head coaching position, despite the fact that they kept on believing in Arthur Smith. Me personally, I really want to see this team go out there and get a guy like a Ben Johnson or Bobby Slowick to ultimately maximize the potential of some of their young stars in this offense. Because when you look at the overall production from this past year, it was disappointing on the offensive side of things, but it was pretty promising on the defensive side of things. So no matter who they get, they're going to be coming into a very good situation with a ton of different options this offseason. I think ideally they should have an answer at head coach pretty damn soon. But let's go ahead and move on to a team that is on the other side of the border, the LA Chargers. And with the recent hiring of Jim Harbaugh, we can all say goodbye to Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator. And let's go ahead and face it, the schematics and personnel of this team is going to get a complete overhaul this offseason. Jim Harbaugh is more of like a Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel type of head coach. Sure, he's going to ask a lot of Justin Herbert, but Justin Herbert is definitely up for the task. But they're going to be a team that relies on the offensive line, the defense, and this running game. And for your franchise quarterback, Justin Herbert, that's going to take a ton of pressure off his shoulders. This is the same guy that essentially had to be Superman every single day because his defense sucked, his offensive line was mediocre, and they had no run game, so it was basically up to him to make plays every single down. But now with Jim Harbaugh as the head coach, I do think that's about to change. Now let's get this out of the way. The personnel is going to have to adjust to Jim Harbaugh. As it sits right now, your offensive line and run game has been pretty bad this past year. The offensive line isn't really built to be a downfield rushing attack, so I do think it is going to take a little bit of time to adjust to him. Not to mention, they really don't have a running back on the roster who's that downfield runner that they really want to have. Eckler is obviously known for more of his passing ability and his ability to really be a dynamic playmaker in the backfield, but I really have a hard time seeing Jim Harbaugh really use him the way he is supposed to be used. Could he play that Donovan Edwards-like role that he had in Michigan? Maybe, but I just doubt they're going to want to pay him the big bucks he probably wants to get. So they're going to have to address some more downfield run-blocking offensive linemen to go along with a downfield runner. But then Harbaugh's going to have to answer a lot of questions in this receiving room. As it sits right now, Quentin Johnson is really their one true guy they're going to have moving forward. Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are on contract years, and Mike Williams is coming off a ton of injuries. And for a team that's looking like they might be sort of entering a soft little reboot, it might be time to move on from those guys. I know Keenan Allen is coming off a Pro Bowl level season, but I just don't really see him being a part of this team for the next 3 to 4 years. Especially if this team is not going to be serious contenders within the next 2 years. And then you look at the defense, which is full of a bunch of guys like Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. They need to kind of overhaul that defense as well. So to kind of recap everything, I expect a big difference in personnel next year. Guys like Austin Eckler, Joshua Kelly, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, hell, even Derwin James are all going to be asking themselves if they want to be a part of this franchise moving forward. And that might not even be up to them. I think this front office is going to make a ton of personnel changes to adapt to Jim Harbaugh. And then when you look at the actual schematics of things, this team is going to look drastically different as well. The same old LA Chargers that are used to getting bullied are now going to be the ones that are going to try to bully you. We'll see if that pays off for them. Now, before I get into my last team, there are a few teams who I do think are going to look drastically different next year that I did not mention in this video. So if you guys do want to see a part 2, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, as well as let me know in the comment section below what teams I should talk about. But let's go ahead and move on to the next team, and that is going to be the New England Patriots. Anytime you fire your head coach who's been on your team for over 10 plus years in Bill Belichick, it's going to be a drastically different team. Gerard Mayo is now their new head coach, and while I don't expect him to go out there and just change everything that Bill Belichick did, I do imagine it's going to be a bit of a culture change for this team. As we all know, Bill Belichick, Tom Brady have sort of been the figureheads of this franchise the past several years, and now that both those guys are gone, it's going to take a new and young-minded head coach who's going to have to come in here and change a lot of things. Again, I don't really expect Gerard Mayo to go out there and reinvent the wheel by no means, but I do expect him to take some different approaches this offseason. As it sits right now, they have $66 million in cap space to go along with the number 3 overall pick. And while many people are projecting them to go out there and take Jaden Daniels, I definitely do think a guy like Marvin Harrison is also in play there as well. But let's assume they do decide to take either Caleb Williams, Drake May, or Jaden Daniels. That is obviously a clear upgrade over a guy like Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi. And especially if Jaden Daniels is the guy, it's going to take a very unique approach for this offense because this is not really a franchise that has typically had a rushing quarterback. If you watched my mock draft, which by the way, if you haven't, I'll pin it up right now, but if you haven't, I'll spoil you who I took for the Patriots pick. I decided to skip on Jaden Daniels and go with Marvin Harrison Jr. And the reason why I think Marvin Harrison Jr. was going to be the pick for the Patriots was because of the simple fact that I just did not think that Jaden Daniels was a good fit for a team like the New England Patriots. And while I still somewhat hold that belief, I do think a guy like Gerard Mayo might take a chance on Jaden Daniels to kind of flip the script on what this Patriots franchise has been. And at the end of the day, this Patriots team is not voided of talent. Yes, they don't really have any really good receiving weapons, and the offensive line is kind of suspect at times, but defensively, they're still a top 15 unit, and they do have a lot of really unique talents along the offense and the defense. And while this Patriots team is a complete far cry from what they used to be, I do think there are some building blocks to have moving forward. And again, having the number 3 overall pick in a loaded draft class is a very good spot to be in. Not to mention, they'll also have their 2nd round pick, and again, there'll probably be a 1st round talent there, so you're going to have 2 1st round picks essentially. And I think if I was a Patriots fan, I'd be pretty excited about the future of what's to come for this team. A new head coach, a new quarterback, some new schematics, some new kind of fresh ideas. I think this team really needs that. At the end of the day, when you've had the same head coach for several years, it does become a little bit stale, especially after your franchise quarterback leaves. But now that you get some new blood in there, I expect this Patriots offense and defense to look quite different. Again, I think it'll have some Bill Belichick philosophy still stuck in there, but I do think it's going to look different in general. But that is going to conclude this video. If you guys did enjoy, again, hit the like and subscribe button, but I love you guys. Peace.